All right, Rami, I'm thinking of planning my second child now. You have 3, no?
I've got 3.
Yeah, I'm thinking of planning my second one now.
Are you ready though? I mean, was it easy having your first one?
No,
It
it
wasn't.
wasn't. Financially, you could never be ready.
Every time when I think about having kids, I remember how difficult the pregnancies are, or they were.
They can
But then,
be.
I mean, there are so many ways now of having kids. People are talking IVF, people are doing surrogacy, people
Yes.
are, it's a lot of that. But then sometimes some people go for those options because they can't naturally have their babies. So yeah.
Unfortunately, the body just won't allow.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we have Dr. Sumayya in here today.
Yeah.
He's going to talk about all of this.
And all the options of making babies.
Let's find out about babas. So people have this perception that having a kid is expensive.
It is, and I have 3.
Yeah, well, I have one too, but people think that it's just after the kid arrives.
Yeah.
There's also some planning in place that needs to be done for those who plan.
Absolutely.
I planned my child.
Are you trying to say something about
No. So what do you say about what I just spoke of right now?
Well, planning is definitely involved.
Yes.
Financial
Rami.
planning, health planning. You're going to make sure that as a woman who's going to bear the child and carry the child for 9 months and look after the child for the rest of its life, that you are in good health to do so before you even get into your pregnancy, and also that you're financially sound to be able to do that. So
I'm just wondering, but then aren't children only starting to be expensive now? Because my mother had 6 kids, and I've never had a complaint
My
about.
grandmother had 8.
And my 3 are killing me.
yeah, it's relative, right?
I think the demand has just like gone completely out of proportion.
Cost of living.
Absolutely. When we were growing up, school fees, we went to government school.
Oh
School
yeah,
fees
that as well.
was 10 rand a year. And yet there were families who didn't pay that. So, now...
And you were not kicked out.
No.
Yeah.
And now if you send your child to even a government school, you're not paying 10 rand a year. It's substantially more expensive than that. And private school is even more expensive than that. So I think the demands on us as parents is higher. And we spoil our kids. So we give them, or we want to give them, there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to give them the luxuries that sometimes we never had.
And the luxuries cost more now, though.
Correct.
Yeah, no. In fact, the luxuries now actually happen to be the so-called basics.
Yes.
Yeah, like I need a hockey stick, I need a golf, I
an
need
iPad.
a set of golf clubs, iPads, which I wanted in grade 0, by the way.
Yes.
But now,
To draw and
let's say
colour.
now, I am a mother. Okay, I'm planning to be a mother, and it's automatic that it's natural for everyone to expect that the day you decide to have a child, it will just happen. And now we're faced with a lot of cases of infertility. And back in the day, we used to think it is just a women's issue only, because me being a black woman, it used to be such a taboo, such like, how are you not able to bear children?
Bear children,
So here I am, financially secure, ready, prepared to now have a child, and it is not happening. And I know that back in the day, in our culture, in black culture, if you marry someone and if you marry a woman and they're not able to conceive, then it is your, I don't say legal right, your cultural right
To go look for another
to
wife.
go for another wife or to actually take the younger sister. But there must be someone who's going to bear you a child that is going to carry on the family name.
Yes.
You know what the reality is? The reality is today we have things to do.
Yeah.
So nature has intended for us to have our children in our 20s as women. That's when you are most fertile. And if you ask yourself, the real question is, how many women today are ready in their 20s to actually have their children?
No,
So
no
you're
one.
busy studying, you're busy leading your life, you're busy
You just started a
getting
career.
on, right? And so by the time you actually get your act together and you think, okay, now I'm ready, you could well be in your 30s.
Yeah.
So it's still possible to have children in your 30s, but it becomes less possible because your egg age as a woman is the same age as you. So you're born with all your eggs.
Yeah.
You have 2 million when you're born. By the time you hit puberty, you only have 500,000 left. So,
Wow.
and then every time you have a reproductive cycle or menstrual
your period,
cycle,
yeah.
you don't only use one, a few of them go. So
Yeah,
by the time
all the
you
time.
get to menopause, which is roughly around 50, there are no more eggs left. So that's what happens. So number one, egg quality and egg quantity. Number two, diseases associated with lifestyle
Yeah.
that can hinder fertility,
Yeah.
that can come up as we get older. And that's why women can struggle to fall pregnant when they're trying for the first time in their late 30s or early 40s. So that ability to have kids doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
It's a finite time.
I know from people my age and younger these days that contraceptives are something that people use in order to kind of ready themselves. Like, I'm not ready to have a child now,
Yeah.
so there's a lot, injections, there's patches and all of that. And some of those things mess up with the females, or all of them, in fact, mess up with the female's hormones.
Well, you're right in one way, but not right in others. And
Okay.
there are some that will have a greater impact in
Okay.
terms of future fertility than others.
Okay.
So, for example, the injectable contraception,
Yeah.
so things like Depo-Provera or no-esterate, can delay a return to fertility
Oh, yes, true.
okay.
by up to
okay.
1 to 2 years
Yeah.
after you stop it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
So-
not like you don't go back immediately.
Yeah, so you can go back, but obviously the older you are and the longer you leave it,
It takes
the
longer
more
to get
likelihood that
back.
other factors could also be
Yeah.
involved. So, so yes, and also if you're using a contraceptive, sometimes, like with the oral contraceptive pill, it makes everything perfect. So you get your period every month, everything looks regular, and it masks a potential underlying problem. So if there is a problem, you don't even know because you're
Because
using
you're
an
thinking everything is
artificial
on
thing.
track.
Yeah.
And you're thinking it's okay, but it may actually
Yeah.
not be okay. So that's the impact of the contraception. On the one hand, the benefit is it allows you to plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
The downside
Yes.
is sometimes it shoots you in the foot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen to everybody.
It
so some
treats
women,
people differently,
correct.
yeah.
So some people come off their pill after 15 years, boom, don't even get a period and they're pregnant. So and some people get pregnant while they're on the pill.
Yeah.
So you don't know. Everybody gets affected by it differently. But yes, it can have an impact.
Okay, now the impact of infertility now, when now everybody gets devastated, because I think a lot of people take it so personally that because we think it is the most natural thing for a woman to be able to do. And then next thing, here I am, all those other implications aside, now we are trying to have a baby, the baby is not coming. We go consult to the doctors, and the doctors is sorry for you. You are not able to have children. And now there are many ways to deal with infertility. I mean, there are traditional ways, like the one that I just mentioned, that you just have to, then you allow your husband to take a second wife, or you get someone to have babies for you. But because now we've got other clinical ways. We've got in vitro fertilization, and which is ridiculously expensive. And you find that a lot of people who cannot even afford it are the ones that actually need it most. And I know that there's also surrogacy, which is also expensive.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And it is amazing how expensive infertility is for someone who really, really wants to have a child. And now we're asking you, because you being a gynecologist, after you've broken the news to someone saying, okay, you are not able to, here are different options and ways that you can actually eventually have a child. And what are some of the experiences, or maybe the reactions, the resentment? I don't know. How do people deal with that?
So, to tell somebody, we always have this fantasy that we can have kids when we want to. We're going to leave a legacy behind. And part of that legacy will be a genetic legacy. I will carry on when I'm gone. And even though you choose not to, the news that you can't, that your option is removed, can have a huge impact on your psyche and your psychology. And often people have to allow themselves to come to terms with that. And not only that, it's all the societal expectations, like you said.
True.
You're not good enough. You are defective in some way because you can't have a child. And these are all real considerations. And often there are recourses, like you said, there's IVF, there's artificial insemination, various techniques.
Yeah.
And often we refer people for these techniques and they're expensive. So, and you often, the success rate, which with each try, let's use IVF for example, is only about 30% take-home baby rate, which means that you have to do on average 3 tries to get a hit.
Yeah.
Which means to take home a baby.
And chances are you get devastated again.
And it's a
and
roller
again,
coaster.
And it's just like...
Correct.
Yeah.
So you have to have the fortitude to say, right, this is the route we have to take, and this is what I have to do for myself to strengthen myself so I can deal with the ups and the downs of the whole process. And I also have to be okay with the fact that it may not work. And it's expensive. You're looking at, on average now, a basic IVF, a try in a private setup could be anything between 60,000 and 75,000.
But then usually that is in a private setting. Do we have that in, like, if I go to Baragwana, the hospital,
No.
for instance?
So in public, the reality is public medicine has no money for fertility because it's regarded as a luxury. It's a nice to have.
Oh my!
There are pressing
It's like
health
now all of a sudden
issues.
the most natural thing,
It's a luxury.
it's a luxury because you can't naturally do it. And if you want to do it any other way, it's like...
Yeah,
it's
it's
quite
not
an expensive
essential for
op-
our health system because we're struggling to find finances for basic things. So fertility is put into the classification of a luxury.
True.
So there are places like that are semi-private funded, like in Cape Town, attached to University of Stellenbosch or Western Cape, where you can get it at a reduced rate. Even Pretoria University, it's reduced, but it's not as high as the complete privately funded stuff, but it's still a substantial chunk. You'll end up paying about 20, 25,000.
Because also medical aid doesn't really pay for that.
No.
They also take it as
They
luxury.
also take it as a luxury.
It also gets taken. It's not life-threatening.
It's like having cosmetic surgery.
Correct. It's in the same bracket.
That's crazy.
But then the need is so different because I think it's one thing if I want cosmetic surgery because I want to be an M cup. I have to think about it because I want to be an M cup. And that doesn't take away from me, and the emotional, my emotions are not deeply affected, or my psyche is not deeply affected, as the need, as the desire to actually have something or someone that has life and breath in them, and I know that it has something to do with me, that I can actually say, I did that. And I think it is quite sad in a way that what it's supposed to be a so-called basic need turns out to be such an expensive exercise. And I think a lot of families get so devastated that they're not able to achieve basic things, and people get upset that, all these girls, there's like a lot of teenage pregnancies. You do it once and there you are, triplets, boom. And now you are all sorted, ready to go, and there's absolutely nothing.
Some people spend their whole lives trying not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And some people spend their whole lives trying to get pregnant. I think it's the human condition. So the one side has to make the other side possible. And all of it needs to coexist at the same time. So it's, nothing is ever perfect.
Yeah.
So as much as there will be people who have too much, there will be people who have too many. Not too little. Too much and too little. But not only in the financial sense, but also in the physical sense, in what we are allocated in terms of health and what we experience.
But
you go. I've noticed that in terms of black cultures, like you said earlier on, they tend to look at females as the problem when there's no baby coming. And it's sad that the females go to a gynecologist and go through all these expensive procedures to then find out at the end that actually you're not the problem.
Snap, that was going to be my next question.
Is there a way that men find out? Is there a gynecologist, so to speak, for guys? Can we find out beforehand if we've got what it takes?
Well, absolutely. Look, 50% of infertility is related to male factors. So that's half. Right? And often, when we go before a couple embarks on an expensive fertility assistance, often we have to evaluate both people on
Okay,
involved.
okay.
Because you don't want to spend all that money, like you say, and then realize it's not working. Why? And now you figure out it's actually because there's a sperm test. So usually in a setup where the couple goes together to a fertility person, those fertility doctors will evaluate both of them. And the way they get evaluated, the males get evaluated, is they have to produce a sperm sample and they test it. So they test it for count, to see how many sperm there are. They check for mobility to make sure how many of them are moving, because they can't be moving in circles. You're not going to get anything.
Like just cruising, you know, like
and how many of them are normal? Because only normal sperm can fertilize. Because a lot of us, or a lot of males, have abnormal sperm, and it's normal to have abnormal sperm in your semen, but only the normal ones can actually fertilize. So they check all of those things. They check for antibodies against sperm. They also check to see how the sperm and the woman's mucus interact, so the mucus is not killing the sperm. So these are all factors that can be looked at before you embark on an expensive exercise.
So separately, we can have kids. That can happen, that you are fertile on your own. I can also make another woman pregnant, but together,
sometimes
doesn't work.
there's a little bit of something here and a little bit of something there.
But and then together
they don't work.
Wow.
Whereas if you went somewhere else and you went somewhere else,
would be fine.
you'd be fine. But if you were together, maybe that doesn't work.
Ish, that's even hard, man. That is crazy. It is difficult. Now, when a couple comes through, they go through the test, and we realize that, okay, it is all impossible. There is no way. And then sometimes they try and go through the expensive ways of doing the IVF, artificial insemination. But then do you also sit a couple down and give them different options and say, listen, the sooner you get to a point of acceptance that you cannot physically have your own, like whether it's physically, artificially, have your own child that is coming out of your loins or out of your womb, it's not your egg. Do you give them options like, okay, have you considered adoption? Have you considered this and this? And do a lot of people take that on? Or do you actually find like there's a lot of resistance?
So I think that people today still are very set on having their own genetics. And there are different ways you can do it. So let's say, for example, the two of you want to have a baby, right? But let's say you have no sperm, but you're fine. So they could get a sperm donor, right? So which means you could still use a sperm donor with your eggs. You carry the child. It becomes your child, but you have no genetic link to the child, right? That's like a halfway. The opposite is also true, that his sperm are fine, but your eggs are not good.
Then
so you could use a donor, but you can carry the baby.
True.
So even though you carry the baby, there's no genetic link between you and the baby.
True.
Right. And then it's still yours, but genetically, now you have to make your peace with that. Because
if you do a DNA test, nothing.
There's no DNA that's common.
It's just a container, basically.
She's the carrier. And then you can even have the surrogate, where the surrogate carries it. So let's say there's a problem and you can't carry the baby. You can use your sperm, your eggs,
and someone
put
else
the baby into a surrogate who is just a container, but it's genetically yours. So there are many options in terms of what the possibilities are.
And now talking about eggs, like I just want to quickly talk about egg donation, because I know that it is such a controversial subject. I know that men are quick to donate sperm. Quickly and speedily. I mean, all it takes is 2 minutes.
Wow!
But I know that it's easier for men to donate sperm, but it's very difficult for women to donate eggs. You know, because surrogacy is one thing, IVF is another, but for someone to be able to say, okay, I have 2 kids, but I've got eggs that I know that I will never, ever, ever use. Or I know people donate wombs and everything, but then the speed or the rate at which, especially in South Africa, that women are willingly prepared to donate eggs to allow other women to have the experience of having their own children. How is that? How good is it?
It's not something that is done easily, because it does involve taking its toll on your body. So let's say you wanted to donate eggs. You'd have to go and have an assessment. to check are your egg is blood tests, etc., to make sure your egg quality is relatively okay.
Yeah.
You would then have an ultrasound or multiple ultrasounds. You may require medication to stimulate you. You
Yeah,
have to
so
come
that-
off your own contraception. So there will be a disruption in your life, physically and organizationally,
Okay.
to allow yourself to be that egg donor.
Yeah.
And you may even have side effects of some of the medication, and you have to undergo some procedure to harvest the eggs.
Yeah.
And if they can get enough on the first go, great. But if not, you're going to have to go through it again for the second month. So
Yeah.
that's what I think prevents a lot of women from
That's what
being
puts
a
it- puts a
donor,
lot- yeah,
because it's
it's
not a simple
difficult.
matter of I go somewhere, I offload my eggs, and I move on.
Yeah.
It's a process that will affect my life in the process.
It's like proper organ donation.
Well, not as
In a way.
hectic as that,
Yeah, well,
but similarly.
I just feel like it is quite a procedure. It's not as easy as it would be
And
to
the-
get a sperm donation. for
Correct.
It's not 2
instance.
minutes.
And the
Yeah.
other thing is, the other ethical thing is that
Yeah.
you have to think about, I will have people walking around this earth with
Looking
my
like
genetics.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what happens if I have my own child,
Yeah.
and my own child
Looks
meets
like-
that person, falls,
then
in,
falls
love,
in love.
and they don't know they're genetically linked?
Yeah.
Wow.
So those are ethical issues that one
Yeah,
needs to
true.
consider before we just hand out our genetics.
Yeah, because I know that it basically rules out so many things, because that's why people are scared to come forward, because they're like, next thing you walk into a store and you're like looking at this person and going like, I know you.
Yeah.
You know, who are your relatives? Who's your
Yeah.
dad? And actually it's your egg or your sperm that has been donated.
Yeah.
You know, but I also know that on an upside, not an upside, a downside, a lot of people, not just in South Africa, across the world, I know people who leave South Africa, go overseas to do the procedure, and there's like a black market for it, because that's how desperate couples are, you know, to get babies, to have children of their own, and then people are selling eggs for 250,000
Yeah,
a
I
pop,
also read that,
just so
yeah.
that. And I think it is so scary to see the lengths at how people that people are prepared to go for, because if I'm prepared to go to South America to
Yeah.
donate my egg, clearly there must be a client who is prepared to pay
That
whatever
much.
price necessary
Yeah. That's
to
correct.
see that happening.
That's correct.
So this is
Yeah.
like a very big issue.
It is. I had a friend who had a woman from overseas meet him at the airport and wanted to pay him 2 million rand to be a sperm donor.
He must
He
have
must
been
be
looking
one
fine.
good-looking guy.
No, he is a very good looking man, even if I say so myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And yeah,
it's real.
it is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can
Thank
never
you.
ever finish talking about this
No, we can't.
fertility thing, because
We
it is
can't.
so broad. It is the impact of it, the emotional, the psychological, the
Yeah.
financial strain, and everything that just comes with it. It's just like, it's a complete mystery.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can carry on for days.
Yeah. But then, well, we don't have days, do we?
We don't. Nor
No,
do we
we
have
don't.
2 minutes.
Yeah. You went there, right?
I will always go there.